Nipun Mehta, diseñador de movimientos sociales a gran escala, arraigados en pequeños actos de servicio, impulsados por la conexión y la transformación de uno mismo desde el interior, fundador de ServiceSpace, una comunidad global de más de 1,5 millones de miembros que trabaja en la intersección tecnología, voluntariado, cultura del obsequio, Premio Jefferson al servicio público, Premio al Héroe Anónimo de la compasión, entregado por el Dalai Lama, Premio Goi de la Paz 2019 y miembro del Consejo para abordar la pobreza y la desigualdad en Estados Unidos, nos habla de cómo la compasión no reside realmente en nuestro servicio, sino en la voluntad de vernos a nosotros mismos en parentesco con el otro. Pareciera un clásico de la cultura occidental decir que el alma se fue transfigurando en mente y en conciencia exclusiva de un yo con cuerpo arrojado a la mismidad, en búsqueda desesperada de su mayor realización. Un yo que no es causa sino efecto, un yo singular que es preciso de construir como posibilidad, revelación y acto de amor. Desde esta concepción, el amor es un tanteo, una danza, un intento de alcanzar al otro, en el que no hay meta sino deriva. El amor es un encuentro, un servir al otro y una transformación del yo en ese encuentro.
I want to talk today about awakening joy in turbulent times. It feels impossible to look at the state of the world today and say, oh, can I be joyous in this kind of a world? But yet there's this beautiful quote. It says, if you can see the invisible, you can do the impossible. And I think if we can feel into the invisible, if we can feel into our deeper interconnection, I think it's possible for us to awaken joy in these turbulent times. Let me start with a video of two people who have had the weight of the entire world on their shoulders. This is Desmond Tutu and Dalai Lama. They have held so much human suffering, and they come at life from two very different views. You can say two very polarizing views, yet they were the best of friends. And they land, after a lifetime of service, they land at this incredible joy. Right? So take a look at this video.
Mischievous, aren't you?
I consider that person also is a mischievous person. Unfortunately, that person is Christian.
Unfortunately, he's a Buddhist.
There's a question of how you think about your own death. That possibility.
Quite polite. Quite polite.
Well, he doesn't mind too much because there's the reincarnation.
And I'm wondering, what is it about your friendship with each other that allows you to have this kind of extraordinary joy?
He's always troubling me. I admire him enormously. Oh, he's going to get proud. I'm just saying, he is there for us as a beacon.
So I really love, you see, he always teasing me. And also I tease him. Oh, you see, so we really become something quite special.
Yes.
So, and also his face. Is, you see, the head looks like a monk now. You see, this picture, special picture, I think at time of my death, I will remember you.
If you look at that video, I mean, it doesn't just make you smile. It never fails to make me smile. If you look at who they are, if you look at their joy, and you contrast that with the state of the world today, it does feel a little impossible. This is the head of Gallup, which is a polling organization, saying that negative emotions, the aggregate of stress, sadness, anger, worry, physical pain, it reached a record high last year. Right? This is where you see 2 billion people wouldn't recommend their community to anybody they know. 2 billion, right? That's 1/3 of the world's population, maybe a little less, saying that please don't move to my community. My community is terrible. You have 330 million people that go 2 weeks without talking to a single person. 330 million people, right? And you have 20% of adults that say they don't know any single person that they can count on for help. That's 1 out of 5 people. Wow. In this kind of a world, and it's not just even adults, even if you look at younger people, 73% of people, kids under 30, right, would say that, hey, it's most of the time I'm looking out for myself. That's just how the world is, that people are self-centered. That's normal. That's, 73% of the young population is saying that we are fundamentally selfish, and they just think that that's how life is. And as a result, what you see is, in the age range of 18 to 25, we have seen a stunning rise in depression and suicide over the last decade. So how do we combat all of this? And I think one response has been to escape, to go into the metaverse, as they say, into a virtual world. And you'd be amazed if you look at the numbers. You have 2.5 billion gamers around the world, and on average, they spend 8 hours and 27 minutes every week playing these video games. 8 hours and 27 minutes with 2.5 billion gamers. That is a lot of time saying this world is not satisfying. Eject, take me into another world. But you look at all of that and you say, wow, it's easy to get depressed, right? It's easy to get pessimistic. But I love this next quote, which says, pessimism is for better times, right? We can't afford to be pessimistic right now, because if you are hearing this, if you are connected to this Congress, if you are asking these deeper questions of life, I think we are all called to respond and make life not just make this joy possible for ourselves, but for each other as well. So about 25 years ago, we started a group called, it's a nonprofit organization in the US, in the heart of the Silicon Valley, called ServiceSpace. And its fundamental idea was, yes, to serve the world, but while serving the world, also to change yourself. Because Einstein had this beautiful quote. He says, no problem can be solved at the same level of consciousness that created it. So it's not just that you have a problem and you have a solution, that if you are going to find a truly innovative solution, you have to shift the baseline consciousness. And how will we do that? So if you look at our logo has two important things. One is this Zen circle on the inside, and the second is community on the outside. And it's very important that our tagline says, change yourself, change the world. And the order of that is very important, because if you say change the world and then maybe that will change me, that's not going to work. But if you lead with inner transformation, if you lead with that Zen circle at the center, that you change yourself, and that then creates this communal external ripple effect. That changes the world that we live in, that changes the systems as well that we manufacture. I think that's a very different approach. And what we have seen is this really nuanced understanding of service, right? That you start with this notion that I want to do a small act of service, but as you do that small act, as you serve without any strings attached, no agendas, you serve without transaction, there is this inner transformation that happens in you. There is an inner ripple effect. And once you have that inner ripple effect, your body immediately recognizes that you have shifted from me to we, and it rewards you with all this dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin and all these endorphins. And as you get rewarded, you feel like, wow, you feel deeply interconnected with other people. And in this web of interconnection, there is a murmuration, there is a collective intelligence that arises where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, where you and I are not just 1 + 1 = 2, it's 1 + 1 is greater than 2. And all of this is so satisfying that you look and you say, wow, in the next moment, can I be of service? Right? Can I be kind? Can I be compassionate? Can I smile more? And so we often say the reward for service is more service. That if you do it right, if you see the entire cyclical nature of what going from me to we to us is and how satisfying it is, you will want to do more and more of that, and it will bring you to the doorsteps of joy no matter what the circumstances are, like we saw in that video with Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. So a core question that comes up on this path of joy and service is this, it's kind of simple, but it's very profound. It's, where am I? In this particular moment, where am I? And John Pendergrass has a very beautiful framing. He says you can be in one of 4 states. The first is that, where am I? I don't know. I'm so traumatized that I'm not even in my body. I can't find my body. Right? This is a state of no ground. Then he says there's another state where the body is in the foreground, where you say, where am I? I am here. I am in my body. Then you go a little further and you can actually have a state where you say, where am I? Well, I'm not just in my body. Actually, I am something much grander, and my body is in me. That I am the ocean in which this wave is arising and passing. Right? And this is where the body is not in the foreground, but it's in the background. And then beyond that, there's a stage where where your body is actually in, or rather your identity is in what John Pendergrass calls the home ground, where everything is in my body. Everything is my body. So where am I? I am everywhere. Right? But you can't take shortcuts along this journey. You sort of have to go at it progressively, and it's not that you arrive at one place. You may arrive at one place in one moment, and then you might be in another place in another moment. So it's very important to look at these 4 stages. But what's also important is not just the 4 stages, but the transitions. So if I'm in a stage where I say, where am I? And I say, well, I'm not in my body. I can't find myself. It's very important to reconnect with the body. And that means to reconnect with the me, right? To reconnect and say, well, I'm in my body. How do we reconnect with the me? I think it's very critical we do that. I want to share a little video of this woman who is quadriplegic, and she was in a very difficult stage, and at some point she was so traumatized in some sense and feeling disconnected with the world that she says, I need to reconnect with the me. And she says, I need to honor self-compassion. I need to take care of myself, self-care. And there was no one doing that for her. And so what she decided to do was, even when she's buying things online, she checks the gift option and she asks herself, maybe I'll write a nice message to myself, which was so it kind of breaks your heart, but it's also incredibly profound. Take a look.
I'm Sharon. I'm 37 years old. I'm quadriplegic and I live in a nursing home. And I've actually been moved from an ALF to a hospital to 3 different nursing homes during the beginning of this challenge, which is why I'm a bit behind. But I have gained so much from this challenge happening at this specific time in my life, being moved to a nursing home from an assisted living facility. And I'm sorry if there's any background noise.
We didn't bring you lunch yet?
It's no problem.
Sorry. But this compassion challenge has meant so much to me because it has given me an outward thing to do rather than to balk in my own self-pity or feel sorry for myself or just feel afraid of my new surroundings. So I've been concentrating on showing compassion while also having in my mind the need for me to be having more self-compassion. And it's so easy to find ways to give compassion to practice compassion in a nursing home. You have the residents here that are sick or disabled or dying. You have the staff here who work so hard. Everybody that you come in contact with, you want to express some form of compassion with. So it's given me a way to become creative with how I express compassion. And through all this expression of compassion towards others, it's made me more outgoing and more like an extrovert. And it has taught me deep self-compassion because I realized that everything I'm putting externally, I should be giving to myself as well, because I'm in the same situation as these people. I feel bad for them that they don't have anyone visiting them. I feel bad for them that they're, all alone or they're in pain and this kind of things. These are the same kind of things I experience. So of course I deserve my own compassion too. So a little thing that I did recently is on my recent Amazon order for the month, I had a few items and I made all of them into a gift. So I left myself a gift note from myself for each little item, whether it be soap or pens I'm getting and that kind of thing. Just so I'll have a little gift note with either a word of encouragement or a compliment from me to me. So I thought that was like just a nice little way of showing myself some self-compassion that wouldn't have come to be without this. And I just want to thank everybody involved, especially you, Nipun. Thank you for everything that you've done and everybody involved with getting this pod going. I've just grown. I keep telling my mom, like, I feel like I've gotten something of so much value without having a monetary cost associated with it. And I've just grown so much from it. So thank you all. I really appreciate it. So much gratitude here.
Yeah, it sort of breaks your heart in a way, but it also reminds you of how resilient human beings can be. We in fact did a 21-day challenge afterwards. 21 people came together and we were sending Sharon these daily messages of love and sometimes with gifts. It was beautiful. If we find ourselves then in the state of me, where I am in my body, where am I? I'm in the body. Then I think the way we push the envelope there is to reconnect with the we, where I'm in my body, but actually I have the capacity to expand my sense of identity, right? To reconnect with the ocean and not just identify with the wave, to reconnect with the forest, not just think of myself as a fruit. And that process is a process of reconnecting with the we. And a very powerful example that I ran across was right after the Ukraine and Russia war started. It was traumatic in so many ways. There was a lot of tension, a lot of violence, a lot of anger. And in this context, in a small Ukrainian village, they captured a bunch of Russian soldiers. Now, clearly, a lot of people want to harm them and everyone surrounded them. But in this state of tension, all of a sudden, they see this hand come from behind, and it's the hand of a grandmother, and it's holding a bowl of soup. And it's offering it to one of the Russian soldiers and says, "You must be hungry. Would you like some soup?" And all of a sudden, there was this silence, and people were like, wow, we are capable of that kind of love. And seeing that, another woman looks at that and says, hey, looks at the youngest person there and says, hey, you must have a mom too. And your mom must be worried. You know, you don't have a phone, you don't have anything on you right now, but I have a phone. Why don't you call your mom from my phone? And this video of that conversation between the two of them went viral online, but it's an incredible testimony to moving from the me to the we. Take a look.
Наташ, все хорошо, Наташ, слышите? Все, говори, маме, говори.
Все нормально.
Ви сюди до нас будете? Так, йому якісь може вещи, зараз я піду цей вопрос рішу.
You can see him tearing up, understandably so. May move most of us to tears as well. And so if we find ourselves in this state of we, even then we can expand our hearts, we can stretch our sense of identity a little bit further into the us. So there was the me. First shift is to go to reconnect with the me. The second shift is to reconnect with the we. But the third shift then is to reconnect with the us. And what is this us? What does it mean to be in this state of us? To be in the state of us is to be universal first and unique second. We are usually unique first and universal second. But this state of us invites us to step into our deeper connection of what it means to be alive. Take a look at this photo of a murmuration. This was 2019 National Geographic Photo of the Year. Just an incredible photo because it's a photo of hundreds of these birds, starlings, coming together. They saw a predator and they said, oh, how will we respond? And in a snap of a finger, they all just came together and coordinated themselves and created this giant shape. And then that bird saw that, oh, this is not, this is too big a bird, let me go away. And so the bird flies in a different direction, and all of these guys, in a snap of another finger, dissolve. What is it that allows them? This is clearly not random. What is the intelligence that allows them to assemble in this way, to cooperate, to synergize, and to not be attached to all the things that, you can imagine human beings doing this and the kinds of attachments they would have. They're like, I want to be here, I want to be here. No, why are you at the beak? Why am I not? I want to be in the front. And they don't do that. Like, what is that intelligence there? What is that interconnection that binds them together? And are we capable of that? Of course we are, but how do we tap into that state of us? That state of us where 1 + 1 is not just 2, but it's greater than 2, right? That you and I coming together in a certain way allows for a much deeper synergy to exist in the space in between us. I love this quote by a Benedictine monk. He says, we humans prefer a manageable complexity to an unmanageable simplicity. I love that, right? Like, it's because it's so true that we love to take things and make them more and more and more complex and then manage all of that. Why? Because it keeps our ego in business, right? It keeps us occupied. But he says that actually this unmanageable simplicity may be a lot more fulfilling. And so how do we move? Like I'm from India, and one great example of shifting from this unmanageable complexity to unmanageable simplicity. A great metaphor of manageable complexity is the Indian traffic scene, right? Like, oh my God, like you look and you say, some trucks are going this way, some cars are going this way, then you have rickshaws in between, and then you have bicycles and everyone doing all this stuff. And you're like, whoa, how can you get anywhere from point A to point B? This is Indian traffic. And somebody joked, they says, I never believed in God until I sat in Indian traffic. It's just magical and mysterious. But it symbolizes, I think it mirrors a lot of where our current state of the world is. If you go to any institution, you go to any school and you say, well, You know, I would like to change it. Everyone will say, I want it to be more values oriented. I want it to be compassion driven. But how? How will you do that? And they will say, well, we can't because there's a real traffic jam. Right? Because my funders want one thing, my teachers want another thing, my students want another thing, my administration wants another thing, and everyone is mixed up in this incredible traffic jam of motivations. So how do we then return to this inner simplicity? And I think the good news here is that just consider how love works, right? Consider how you don't need to teach even an 18-month-old how to love. They know it. There's a lot of research behind this as well. And we as humans, as adults rather, we tend to forget, but I think it's very present even for all of us. Take a look at this video. It just warms my heart every time I see it.
Keep your eye on this car. It's drifting across a busy intersection into oncoming traffic. The woman sprinting to help knows the driver. They work together. She realizes something is seriously wrong. It's a medical emergency. The woman behind the wheel is slumped over the steering wheel, but the brave friend can't stop the runaway car alone. You can see her waving frantically. That's when perfect strangers come together. First one, then two, 3, 4, a fifth. All hop out of their vehicles to lend a hand. Together, they stop the car. Then they try to open the doors to reach the unconscious driver. A woman finds a dumbbell in her car and gives it to one of the guys, and he uses it to smash a rear window and open the door. 911 calls start coming in.
We have an elderly woman that is unconscious at the wheel.
Is she breathing?
Yes, she is breathing.
There's a car, I think there's an incapacitated driver. They're trying to break into the car.
The drama unfolded in Boynton Beach, Florida. The driver, Lori Rabior, a seamstress, says she took medication on an empty stomach and became dehydrated.
That must be when I passed out because I hit a curb and then the car turned. That's when it went into traffic. I don't even remember leaving work.
With her is Jeanette Rivera, the brave co-worker who ran after the runaway car.
That must have been very scary.
You're my hero.
Another of the heroes, U.S. Staff Sergeant Juan Chavez. That's him running through traffic.
Honestly, I saw somebody that needed help and I just rushed to it. I didn't really think too much of it. I didn't really think too much about my safety at that point.
Now Boynton Beach police are appealing for all those good Samaritans to come forward to meet a very grateful lady.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't even know how to thank you. Thank God for people like you.
What a touching video. So many times I see that video and it moves me to tears. And I think that's the field of us. So if you look back at the whole spectrum, you have, where am I? I'm not in my body. And you can use self-compassion and self-care to return to your body, state of me, right? I'm in my body. Once you're in your body, you can expand and reconnect not just with the me, but with the we. And as you connect with the we, you can not just stop there, but actually expand even to the field of us. So there is this spectrum of me to we to us. And I think was the question that perhaps we can all ask is not just how we can be in a state of us all the time, but really how do we work at the intersection of me, we, and us? How do we draw the through line between all three of these? And that, I think, is a very curious question, because if you do that right, if you do it as an artist and hit the sweet spot of the me and we and us, I think the moment you do that is the moment of great joy. We are reconnected by nature's grace, by nature's gift, nature's endowment to us. We are filled with joy. But we have to do the work of reconnecting with the me, with the we, and the us. And so many times when we're doing this work of finding the middle way, we tend to think, oh, middle way, I like this, It's like beauty on one side, beauty on the other side. But I think that's not a very, that's just a theoretical idea of the middle way. I think Martin Luther King Jr. Expresses it much more clearly when he says, oh, well, peace is not the absence of tension. So what he's saying is that the middle way is not beauty on this side and beauty on this side. He's saying it's more like the violin string, where it's holding both sides with the in perfect equilibrium, in perfect tension. If the violin string is too loose, no music. Too tight, it's going to pop, no music. It's got to be in the perfect tension. So what is that perfect tension? And how do we learn to hold? What are the inner resources that allow us to hold both sides of this? And in our case, all three sides of the me and the we and the us, so that we can find that beautiful sweet spot. And I think when we do, we realize that joy is actually the skillful embrace of tension. Not the running away from it, not the bypassing of it, but actually the delightful and skillful embrace of that tension and that equilibrium. That's possible. That's when we see Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu be joyous after a lifetime of incredible service, we see that, oh, I think it's possible. I just need to cultivate that capacity in me. And so lastly, I'll just end with this quote by Tagore. And he says, very beautifully, he says, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and I saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy. And what he's telling us is he's saying, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. That, oh my God, I was in the state of no ground and I couldn't find myself. And then I realized, oh wait, I can reconnect with the me. And from that me, I awoke and I saw that life was service. I moved from me to the we. And as I connected to the we, as I served other people through the smallest expressions of love, I acted, and behold, I saw that service was joy. That all of a sudden, as soon as I did this, as soon as I moved from me to we, and I was open to see where that interconnection led, I stepped into the us, and my goodness, that service was joy. And so this thread between me, we, and us, it is an invitation to actually reconnect with this profound joy that we're all capable of. We don't need to be a PhD to understand it. We don't need to be a Himalayan yogi to understand it. We don't need to have a lot of money or power or fame. This is not a luxury sport. It is accessible to all of us in every moment if we can just step into that heart of service, step into that heart that connects us from me to we to us. Thank you.
Dice Darío Zeta que el otro nos descubre mundos, que el otro es otro porque excede toda verdad, pues sin un otro no hay verdad. Cuando el contacto con el otro acontece, se diluye el yo en su espectro y se crea en nosotros como punto de partida y de llegada de lo común. Y lo común es que todos somos otros, y en esto la desaparición del uno mismo inaugura una expansión que pudiera llamarse compasión. La compasión, como filía, es un amor que no desea aquello de lo que se carece, sino que celebra y entrega lo que hay. Busca, en todo caso, desplegarlo lo máximo posible. Es un amor que disfruta la alegría de la filiación, que ama la presencia del otro en la medida en la que se vuelve parte, comparte y preserva aquello que sí hay como una prolongación de lo existente. Amar desde la compasión es abrirse a lo impersonal, pues en el encuentro compasivo con el otro desplegamos el ser, recuperamos la libertad originaria y trascendemos el yo, el otro e incluso el nosotros.